Hello, class. I hope you're all doing well today. We're going to continue off our reading with the Secret of Utnapishtim on page 74. So we can turn to that and open it up. The Secret of Utnapishtim. It was many, many years ago, he begins. I lived in a place called Shrupak, a city already old and full of vices. Now the people of this place thought of nothing but pleasure, and they spent all their time talking and arguing, shouting and singing. Carrying on like this raised a commotion, a loud noise, and this noise rose to heaven, and it disturbed the gods, particularly the god Enlil. Enlil called together an assembly of the gods, and he complained, "They are making too much noise down there, and I don't like it. I cannot sleep." When the gods asked him what he proposed to do about it, he said, "I have conceived a plan whereby I can destroy all the people of earth, and thus get some rest. In fact," the god said, "I have arranged a hurricane that will wipe out mankind, a deluge that will drown every living thing." The gods disagreed, and they quarreled. Some wished only to punish mankind. Others said, "We could send down a plague that would diminish the numbers of people on earth. But Enlil is powerful, and his domain is earth itself." He said to them, "I reveal my plan to you, the gods, but not one of you is to speak a word of it to any mortal man. No one is to survive." In truth, Gilgamesh, no god spoke to me or told me anything. Yet one night I heard a voice, and it seemed much like the voice of my lord, Ea. The voice came close to the wall of my house and spoke to it, saying, read hut, wall, wall. Reed hut, listen. Wall, hear. Let the man of Shrupak, son of Ubartatu, tear down his house. Destroy all. Abandon everything. Let him build a ship to save life, to escape the storm. Let him take onto the ship seed of every living thing, of creeping things and flying things, domestic creatures and wild beasts, and all those creatures that eat grass, his wife and his daughter. So I, as a carpenter, was given the dimensions of the ship, the height, the width, and the breadth. And speaking beside the wall of my house, I asked, "But what shall I say to the people of Shrupak?" "Say to them," the voice went on, "the god Enlil is displeased with me. Therefore, I go to dwell upon the waters that are the domain of my lord Ea. But as for you, the people of Shrupak, a rain of wealth will fall upon you. Rain of barley, rain of birds and of fishes, rain of harvest wealth." Then, Utnapishtim goes on, "I laid the keel and constructed the framework according to the measurements. I directed the laborers and the artisans, and even children carried baskets of pitch. To keep the workmen happy, I killed bullocks from the herd, and I poured out red wine and white wine like water. We put the covering over her, loaded the ship, and I dismissed the builders." And what became of the people of Shrupak? The tempest came over the people like a battle. No man could see his neighbor. Adad thundered, and the demons of the wind ran this way and that. The Anunnaki waved their torches of lightning. The darkness came, and water roared over the land. All that had been light became darkness. The dikes gave way, and the earth was broken in pieces like a pot. For 6 days and 6 nights the storm blew. The gods were terrified, and they huddled together like dogs. Great Ishtar wept. She wrung her hands, saying to Enlil, "Why did I not oppose you in the assembly of the gods? How could I agree to such evil? How could I allow the destruction of my people, my children, who now lie like dead fish in the sea?" When the 7th day came, the storm abated. I opened a window and looked around me, and everywhere there was water. There was no land to be seen. Everything was silence, and all mankind was turned to clay. As I stood there weeping, Utnapishtim continues. The top of a mountain took hold of the bottom of the ship and held it fast. I saw the water begin to recede, so I let a dove go free. It flew round and round, but it came back, for there was no place that it could get a light. After some time I sent out a swallow, and it too returned, but there was mud on its feet. I sent out a crow, and she flew this way and that. She found food, she ate, she cawed. She flew away and did not return. When the top of the mountain lifted up out of the water, I left the ship and stood on earth. And in my gratitude, I poured wine onto the mountaintop. I set up 7 kettles that I might make a feast for the gods. Under these kettles, I made fires of fragrant cedar, cane, and myrtle, and I filled them with meat, which I had seasoned with herbs. The gods smelled the odor. They smelled the sweet odor, and they gathered like flies around the cooking pots. Ishtar came, wearing her necklace of gold and gems. "O great gods," she cried out, "as I shall never forget my jewels, so I will never forget these days of destruction. Let all the gods join the feast." But not Enlil, who brought on the flood. Enlil, however, saw my ship, and he drew near. His anger was terrible to see. He accused all the gods in turn, saying, "Has any mortal escaped? No one was to live through the destruction." The gods pointed to Ea, and he answered in this way: "O Enlil, how could you willfully do this thing? You might have punished those who did wrong. You might have sent wolves or lions against those who offended you. You might have wiped out some of the people. But why should you want to destroy mankind? Even so, Enlil, I did not reveal my secret to any living man." Enlil came toward us. He took my wife and me by the hand and led us onto the ship. He made us kneel. He torched our foreheads. "Hitherto," he said, "Utnapishtim has been a man. Now he and his wife will be like unto us gods. He shall be immortal. He shall dwell at a distance, at the confluence of the river." So you see, Utnapishtim tells Gilgamesh, it was a god that interceded for me. But who will intercede for you, O Gilgamesh? Who will call together a meeting of the gods for you? Who will grant you the life that you seek? Gilgamesh, wan and weary, after all his hardships, has fallen asleep. Utnapishtim wakens him. "Don't you know that immortals never sleep? O King Gilgamesh, come, let me see you stay awake for 7 days and 7 nights. Gilgamesh agrees, but soon his head nods. Utnapishtim turns to his wife. "See how the strong man sits on his hams? Sleep, like a rainstorm, blows over him." But the wife pities the young man. "Waken him, husband. Let him go back along the way for which he came. Remember, O wife, how deceitful are the ways of mortals. I must prove to this one that he is not fit to dwell among us." Utnapishtim then orders his wife to bake a fresh loaf of bread for each day during which Gilgamesh sleeps, and to place each loaf at his head. 7 days have passed, and Utnapishtim rouses Gilgamesh, who says, "I had hardly nodded, O carpenter, when you touched my arm." "Then count your loaves, young man. A fresh one was baked for each day during which you slept." Gilgamesh counts the loaves. The first is fresh and still warm, but the second is cold. The third is already stale, and the fourth is hard. The fifth is cracked and dry. The sixth, black, and the seventh has begun to mold. Such is the greeting of Utnapishtim toward Gilgamesh, who traveled far and suffered hardships only to see him.